I guess the first thing I should do is thank everybody who made this day necessary.
A high drive, that's trouble.
Yogi Berra, one of the best clutch hitters in baseball.
There is no other baseball player who combined championship success with unforgettable quotes quite like Yogi Berra. Even decades after his retirement, Yogi remained a beloved figure through his legendary Yogiisms, his incredible World Series record, and his status as one of baseball's most quotable characters. His combination of baseball brilliance and accidental wisdom made him the most uniquely memorable figure in Yankees history. Even though you may think you know a lot about Yogi Berra already, here are 10 lesser-known facts about the 10-time World Series champion and the man who proved you could be a philosopher without even trying. Yogi got his name from a Hindu mystic. Lawrence Peter Berra didn't become Yogi because of his flexibility or meditation skills. The nickname actually came from his childhood friend, Jack McGuire, who thought young Larry sat cross-legged like a Hindu yogi when he watched movies at the local theater in St. Louis. McGuire had seen a travelogue about India that featured a Hindu mystic called a yogi, and he thought Berra resembled the man's sitting position. The nickname stuck immediately in the neighborhood, and soon everyone was calling him Yogi instead of Larry. What's remarkable is that this casual childhood observation would become one of the most recognizable names in sports history. Berra initially didn't like the nickname and preferred to be called Larry, but he eventually embraced it when he realized it made him stand out. The name became so associated with him that most fans didn't even know his real name was Lawrence. Even official Yankees programs and newspaper articles used Yogi as his first name. It's ironic that a nickname inspired by Eastern spirituality would belong to someone who became famous for accidentally profound statements that sounded almost Zen-like in their simplicity. Yogi served in D-Day and never talked about it. Before Yogi became a Yankee legend, he was a 19-year-old Navy gunner's mate who participated in one of the most important military operations in history. On June 6, 1944, Berra was aboard a Navy rocket boat during the D-Day invasion at Normandy, providing covering fire for troops storming Omaha Beach. Berra rarely spoke about his war service throughout his life, typical of his generation's modesty about their military contributions. When pressed for details, he would simply say he did what he had to do and change the subject back to baseball. His boat was part of the initial assault wave, firing rockets at German positions to clear the way for Allied forces. What makes his service even more remarkable is that just 2 years later, he was playing professional baseball and beginning his Hall of Fame career. The young man who helped liberate Europe was catching for the Yankees by 1946, showing the incredible resilience and adaptability that would define his character both on and off the field. Berra received several military commendations for his service, but he kept them private and focused on his baseball career instead of trading on his war hero status. Yogi grew up in the same neighborhood as Joe Garagiola. One of the most famous sports coincidences in history is that Yogi Berra and future Major League player and broadcaster Joe Garagiola grew up on the same street in St. Louis. Both boys lived on Elizabeth Avenue in an Italian-American neighborhood known as The Hill, and they were childhood friends who played baseball together constantly. What makes this even more remarkable is that both boys would go on to have successful major league careers, though Berra became the superstar while Garagiola became better known as the broadcaster and television personality. They remained lifelong friends, despite their different career paths, and would often joke about their humble beginnings. The neighborhood was so small that there were actually several future major leaguers who grew up within a few blocks of each other. Both Berra and Garagiola signed professional contracts as teenagers, with Garagiola initially getting more attention as a prospect. The Cardinals signed Garagiola while the Yankees signed Berra, setting them on different paths that would define their careers. Their friendship lasted throughout their lives, and Garagiola would often tell stories about the childhood adventures during his broadcasting career. It's amazing to think that one small neighborhood in St. Louis produced two major league players who would become household names across America. Yogi hit the first pinch hit home run in World Series history.
He slams Franco's pitch over the scoreboard in right field for the first pink chip home run in World Series history.
On October 2, 1947, in Game 3 of the World Series against the Brooklyn Dodgers, Yogi Berra made baseball history by hitting the first pinch hit home run ever in a World Series play. The blast came off Dodgers pitcher Ralph Branca in the 7th inning at Ebbets Field and helped the Yankees win the game 9-8. What makes this achievement even more special is that pinch hitting wasn't really part of Berra's regular role. He was the Yankees' starting catcher. Manager Bucky Harris used Berra as a pinch hitter in this situation because another player was already catching and Yogi's bat was too valuable to keep on the bench. The home run was typical Yogi. Not pretty, but effective. He took a Branca fastball and pulled it down the right field line for a 2-run homer that gave the Yankees a crucial lead. Dodgers fans were stunned to see their ace reliever give up a bomb to a pinch hitter in such a critical situation. This historic home run was just one of many clutch hits Berra delivered in World Series play throughout his career. He holds numerous World Series hitting records and was always at his best when the stakes were highest, proving that his success wasn't just about catching and game calling. Yogi was one of only 6 players to win 3 MVP awards. While everyone remembers Yogi for his catching and his quotes, people often forget that he was one of the most dominant players of his generation. Berra was a 3-time American League MVP, winning the award in 1951, 1954, and 1955, making him only one of 6 players in baseball history to win 3 MVP awards. His career numbers are impressive: 285 batting average, 358 home runs, and 1,430 RBIs over 19 seasons. What made Berra special as a hitter was his ability to make contact with almost any pitch. He was famous for swinging at pitches out of the strike zone and somehow making solid contact, driving pitchers crazy with his unconventional approach. From 1950 to 1957, Berra never finished lower than 4th in MVP voting, showing incredible consistency over nearly a decade. He led American League catchers in home runs and RBIs for 9 straight seasons, from 1949 to 1957, dominating his position like few players ever had. What's most impressive is that Berra accomplished all this while handling the physical demands of catching nearly every day. Catchers today get regular rest, but Yogi caught over 100 games in 13 different seasons, showing incredible durability and toughness throughout his career while maintaining elite offensive production. Yogi managed both New York teams to the World Series. After his playing career ended, Yogi became one of only 7 managers in baseball history to lead both American and National League teams to the World Series. He managed the Yankees to the 1964 World Series, where they lost to the Cardinals, and later managed the Mets to the 1973 World Series, where they lost to the Athletics. His managerial style was completely different from his public persona. While fans knew him for his humorous quotes and easygoing personality, Berra was actually a demanding manager who expected players to hustle and play fundamental baseball. He wasn't afraid to bench star players or make tough decisions when necessary. The 1973 Mets season was particularly remarkable because the team was in last place as late as August before rallying to win the National League pennant. Berra kept the team focused and confident during their struggles, constantly telling them they were better than their record showed. His calm leadership helped the Mets overcome a significant deficit to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, both of his World Series appearances as a manager ended in defeat, but reaching the Fall Classic with both New York franchises demonstrated his versatility and baseball knowledge. Many players who played for Yogi said he was one of the smartest baseball minds they ever encountered. Yogi caught more World Series games than anyone. Yogi Berra's World Series experience as a player is unmatched in baseball history. He appeared in 14 World Series as a player and caught 63 World Series games, more than any other catcher in history. His 75 total World Series games played is also a record that may never be broken. What makes his World Series dominance even more impressive is his performance under pressure. Berra hit 12 home runs in World Series play and maintained a .274 batting average in the Fall Classic, proving he was at his best when the stakes were highest. His ability to handle the pressure of October baseball was legendary among his teammates. His World Series experience spanned from 1947 to 1963 as a player, giving him nearly 2 decades of championship-level baseball. Berra won 10 World Series titles as a player, the most in baseball history. The Yankees won the World Series in 1947, 1949, 1950, 1951, 1952, 1953, 1956, 1958, 1961, and 1962, with Berra behind the plate. The mental toughness required to perform at that level for so many years in the most pressure-packed games in baseball shows why Berra was considered one of the smartest players in the game. His calm demeanor and steady performance in October became the foundation of the Yankees dynasty. Yogi's famous quotes were often misunderstood. While Yogi Berra is famous for his Yogiisms, many of his most quoted sayings were either misattributed to him or taken out of context. Berra himself once said, "I never said most of the things I never said," acknowledging that his reputation for malapropisms had taken a life of its own. The truth is that many of Yogi's actual quotes were profound and showed his deep understanding of baseball and life. His famous saying, "It ain't over till it's over," became part of American culture. But Berra was actually making a serious point about never giving up when his 1973 Mets team were struggling early in the season. Another famous quote, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it," sounds nonsensical, but was actually Berra giving directions to his house in New Jersey, where both roads led to the same destination. His reputation for confusing language often obscured the fact that he was actually quite articulate when discussing baseball strategy. What's remarkable is that Berra embraced his reputation and even played into it later in his career. He understood that his unique way of expressing himself made him memorable and helped establish his brand as one of baseball's most quotable characters. Yogi played in more World Series than most teams have won. Yogi Berra appeared in 21 World Series during his career, 14 as a player, 5 as a coach, and 2 as a manager. This means that Berra was part of more World Series than legendary franchises like the Dodgers, Giants, Tigers, or Pirates have won in their entire histories. His World Series experience spans from 1947 to 1981, covering more than 3 decades of October baseball. As a coach, Berra was part of Yankees World Series teams in 1977 and 1978, adding to his incredible championship resume. His total involvement in professional baseball's biggest stage is unmatched and probably will never be equaled given how competitive baseball has become. The breadth of his World Series experience as a player, manager, and coach gave Berra a unique perspective on championship baseball that few people in the game's history could match. His insights about pressure situations and October baseball were invaluable to every team he worked with. Yogi held several catching records for decades. Before Johnny Bench and modern catchers revolutionized the position, Yogi Berra set the standard for offensive production from behind the plate. He held the record for most home runs by a catcher with 313, a mark that stood until Johnny Bench broke it in the 1970s. This record is particularly impressive because Berra played in an era where catchers weren't expected to be offensive threats. Berra also set records for consecutive errorless games by a catcher, 148, and consecutive chances handled without an error, 950, showing that his defensive skills matched his offensive production. These records demonstrated his consistency and reliability behind the plate during an era when catching equipment offered much less protection than it does today. His durability was legendary. Berra caught more than 100 games in 13 different seasons, something that's almost unheard of in modern baseball, where catchers are carefully managed to prevent injury and fatigue. He played through pain and injuries that would sideline players today, showing the toughness that defined his generation. These records stood for years because Berra combined longevity with excellence in a way that few catchers before or since have managed. His ability to maintain both offensive and defensive production while handling the physical demands of catching nearly every day made him unique among players of his era. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and let us know in the comments which fact about Yogi surprised you the most. Subscribe for more legendary baseball stories every week. This is Inside Baseball, where we bring you the best of the game.